What's up, everybody? Today, I am going to be sharing with you a Smite tier list for supports in ranked. So, my tier list is going to be a little bit different than the standard tier list. Like, all the letter grades are going to have their own kind of thing going for them. So, the SS tier is pretty much God tier, so I guess that one's pretty much stays the same. So, if you get this God, you have a really good chance to win the game. It's good at all points of the game. Every attribute in the game, and it's just going to give your team a fantastic chance of winning ranked if you have this on your team. The S plus is just a step below that. So the gods in the S plus tier have some weaknesses, but their their positives outshine their negatives so much that makes it amazing to have them on your ranked team. Okay, so this is where it's going to get a little tricky. So the S and S minus tier are pretty much shared. They're just one S tier, and then the A and A minus tier are pretty much shared. They're just one A tier. So the reason why I have the S and S minus tier split and the A and A minus tier split is because I kind of want this guide to be for everybody. And what I mean by that is where the gods in the S tier are pretty much for anybody that wants to look at this guy and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna pick this god in ranked and play him support because Aurora told me that he is going to be the best god in this situation for me to win the game, even if I don't play the support role as my standard role. So the gods in S tier are going to just be for everybody. Same with the gods in A tier. For the gods in S minus and for the gods in A minus tier, they're a little more advanced. And what I mean by that is you need more practice on them and you need to understand them completely to be really, really good at them. Uh, Then we have the A plus tier. The A plus tier is just a little worse than the S tier and a little better than the A tier. These gods can carry games, but not in all circumstances. Then the A tier is pretty much you really need your teammates to set things up for you, and you really can't carry the game by yourself. You kind of need somebody else or like two other players in your team to help you reach the level to carry the game on that character. And keep in mind too that this list of gods is for ranked, and it's also my personal opinion. This has nothing to do with competitive at all, and this is just my experience in ranked. And I am a pretty experienced ranked player myself. I've been a master support for a pretty long time, so my opinion's pretty good, I feel like. Then we go to the B plus tier. The B plus tier has gods that do a couple things that are good, but they don't really bring a whole lot to other aspects of the game. And then the B tier is pretty much gods that you can play support for fun, I guess. And I really do love one of the gods, Hades, that's in here. He's like probably my top three for favorite gods just to play and mess around with. But he just doesn't really work out in the support role. Like the gods in B tier should just be played elsewhere. And yeah, you're looking at all these gods right now, and some of them you're like, you think you could really play these gods in this role or whatnot? But yeah, that's what I believe, and I have experience on all of them. All right, so I'm gonna go down top to bottom and talk through all the gods a little bit, just so you guys have an idea why I placed them there and why they're so strong. So let's hop right into the S plus tier. So Ares is the only god in this tier. He's very strong and ranked. Um, he has a pretty bad buff clear, which is the level 1 buff clear of the red and then purple to lane. Um, his lane clear is not that great either, and those are pretty much the only two weak points I feel like he has in ranked. There are other weak points in competitive, but in ranked, those are I feel like right there are pretty much his only two weak points. So when he is in lane, once you hit level 3, you have really good lane pressure because your chains hit really hard. You can secure a kill with him if you land some. And then his mid fight's really good. And what I mean by that, like 3, 6, 9, 12 minute mid camps are all really good. His ultimate's really good for getting picks, and he just does like so much damage. So if you're doing that much damage as support, you could pretty much win the game by yourself, and you have the objective secure in the Hog 3, so that's really strong. Moving on, we have Ymir in the S tier. Ymir's really strong. His level 1 is really good. He can invade. Invades are really strong in ranked. I suggest you to invade if you feel confident enough and if your team wants to. I do also recommend you getting your 2 and not your freeze if you do invade, because the slow at level 1 is way better and it does way more damage, and you could probably use it twice in one engagement at level 1. Continuing for Ymir, his buff clear is really strong. The red into purple to lane. His wave clear is strong. His mid fights are strong. His late game is not as good as Ares. He kind of falls off a little bit in rank, but he still does tons of damage. And if you channel full ult into their team, you could really do a lot of damage and turn the team fight for your team easily and almost carry the game for your team. Like he's almost at that level where you can hard carry the game for your team. All right, so let's go into S minus now. And remember, the S minus doesn't mean they're worse than S. It just means that they're a little more advanced and harder to play if you're newer to support or you don't play the support role. So also keep in mind that left to right for tier, I feel like that is the strongest god in the role. And then if for the S minus and A minus, you're just gonna move the first god up to the last god, pretty much. So Thor's insane, pretty much, because his invade's crazy, his mid fight's crazy, his level 1 buff is okay, and his wave clear is really good, and his lane pressure is insane. You have to play scared the entire laning phase, and that's just really good in ranked. You could just pretty much control the entire early game for your middle and your dual lane. Cabrakan's also really good. His level 1, his buff clear is okay, but lane his lane pressure pretty much gives you the wave push, because you could run at them, take free shots from their hunter, build your passive up with your 2, you get extra protections, and you could stun them off it, and you have your health and multipods running, so you're really tanky, you'll never die, and that just running at them pretty much gives you the lane pressure as Cabrakan. His mid fights are great. His late fights are great. He can trap out some mages. He can trap out a lot of the hard hyper carry hunters like Rama and Medusa and Shablanke. And you can just take him out of the fight like that. Fenrir is kind of like Thor. He's really strong. He controls lane pressure really early in the duo lane, and he can also control in the mid lane. Cool thing about Fenrir is if you get ahead, you could pretty much kill whoever you want on the enemy team. Like, it is actually insane. You just jump and brutalize them, and they're dead. Like, if you get far ahead. If you're not that far ahead, and if you're on par or whatever, he's still really strong. His ultimate allows you to pick somebody up, drag him into one of your 100 to 0 mid ults, or just bring him to one of your hunters and let them shoot him a bunch of times. Then you have Neja. She's really good in lane. Really good buff clear. He has pretty good mid fights. He's good around objectives. Just really strong overall. And then there's Humbots. Humbots is kind of like Humbots in Asia, you probably don't see too often. And if you do want to play them, I do recommend practicing a little bit more before you do bring them into ranked. Or if you do want to practice them in ranked, do you feel confident enough? But make sure you're ready for people getting mad at you, because not everybody's going to accept you playing these gods in ranked. You have to show them that you can make it work, and then they'll be believers pretty much. But going on to Humbots, he's really strong. His buff clear's good. His level 1's good. He can invade. He has a slow on his 1. You can get kills in lane pretty easily because you could jump slow. Like, if a hunter doesn't have a jump in the lane, which is not which is pretty rare. But or if you could force their jump out somehow and you jump on them and slow them, you have crits with your passive and you could just blow them up. His mid camp fight is great. Like Humbot's all is just insane. You have a lot of bursts. You transition really well into later stages of the game. Like you usually just get a salve, and then I like going Jotuns at him. So yeah, he's pretty strong. And then you have Hercules. Hercules is a monster early on. He's just like Thor. He's not as good as Thor, I feel like, because Thor creates like super pressure. I feel like Herc can still get pressured out by some combos and stuff in lane, depending on what the other team has. Um, Another thing too is Thor compared to Herc. If you get ganked when you're a Hercules, you probably won't have a good chance to turn around. But Thor has really, really good turnaround potential 3v2, where Herc's turnaround potential is decent, but not nearly as good as Thor's. But yeah, his pull push combo. Obviously, if you could pull push somebody in lane, you're gonna score a kill on them most likely, and that'll just put you far ahead. If you do get behind his Herc though, I feel like this is one of the only gods in ranked. If you do get behind, it's really really hard to have an impact on because he's just not good from behind. Like yeah, you could say you get behind his areas in ranked, but you still have your ultimate. I'm not saying. Remember, this does not have anything to do with competitive at all. But in Ymir you could freeze, you could wall like Herc. If you get behind, you driving strike in, and then you just die to like all their damage. So that's why he's kind of lower uh, on the S roll. But he is still really strong if you get that early lead with him, and that's why he's pretty much at the end of the S list. All right, going into A plus. So A plus is kind of like S plus. It's just a little worse than the S tier and S minus tier. These guys could all still carry really well, but their early game is not as strong as the gods that are in S. So if Bacchus does get a really good start and he gets rolling, like if these gods pretty much get rolling, you're gonna do well. So if Bacchus gets rolling and you're able to pick up like an early mystical mail and voidstone on him, you'll be doing so much damage to the enemy team. You could pretty much solo their mid laner or whatever mage they have on their team whenever your ultimate's up. And that's just insane for a support to do. Like all you do is you use your 3 flop alt, and then your 3 is going to be up again, and you 3 him again, and the mage is dead. And you're like, oh my god, that was crazy. Wukong's the same. He's really, really good against heavy physical comps. He's really good at brawling multiple gods with Shield and Underworld. Um, Also, another thing that I should bring up now, most of these gods, if you guys want to see guides for these gods, I will try my best to get them out. Put in the comments which ones you would like to see. But for most of these gods, Shield of Underworld is going to be your second active unless you need Blink. That's just how it is. Like, Shield of Underworld is insane in ranked. People really don't know how to play around it yet completely, and you could totally catch people off guard, and you could 1v3 as a support. It's insane. Like, I'm not even joking. I was playing a Cabrakan game yesterday. I had Shield, or not yesterday. It was like probably like 3 days ago. But I had Shield Underworld. I 1v3'd as a support. That's just crazy to me. Anyways, back to Wukong. So yeah, if they have heavy physical comps, you have Hide of the Nemean, Mystical Mail, you have Sav, and you have Heartward, and then Shield of Underworld, Boots. You're just like insane. You're just a poke monster too. So if they don't have any sustain on the enemy team, the damage that you do to their mages are going to stick, and it's going to persist throughout the entire game if they don't buy armor. So that's one cool thing to look at. So if you're looking at the enemy team and you're picking your support and you're one of the later on picks, and you're like, wow, they don't really have any sustain, and I don't think they're going to build much armor because we have a lot of magic damage on my team. So the poke that I could do with Wukong would probably be really strong here. So that's why Wukong can carry games. Like he has, well, he carries some games. He has really good poke. He has really good like brawling capabilities, but there's just he just dies to mages really easily. I feel like he's just not as strong when there's a lot of mages on the enemy team. Like I said though, if there is one mage that doesn't have sustain, he is good against like single mage comps and heavy physical comps. Going on to Sobek. Sobek can be really snowbally if you hit a pluck in lane, if you have a better clear hunter, and you get the lane pressure, and then you pluck them into your minions. and you score a kill early, Sobek can become a monster. All four of his abilities do magic damage, which is crazy. You pick up a mystical mail on him, you pick up shield on Underworld, and you could pretty much fight like multiple people at once and really get people low with his ultimate. Okay, going into the A tier. So you're gonna be surprised here because Geb, Athena, and Sylvanas are all in the A tier for ranked. Yes, they're great for competitive. I feel like they're probably top three, unless you want to put Ymir in the top three for supports, like right now. But in ranked, they're just not the best. So pretty much the A tier, like I said earlier, you need teammates to help set you need teammates to follow your setup up. So, like Gev has really good setup, really good late game damage, really good save potential, and you could really carry games if you have good teammates on your team. Same with Guan. Guan has great heals. He has armor penetration. He has good wave clear. Same thing. Athena, global ultimate is insane. Her taunt's really good. But the thing with Athena is, if you dash in and taunt and your team doesn't follow you up, you're dead. If they have any CC on the enemy team, they're just going to turn on you and kill you, and then you're going to be like, guys, come on, where the heck are you? And that's how I feel most of the time while I'm playing ranked as Athena. Or I just don't dash in at all because I know my teammates are not going to follow me up. If you are in Curse, though, it does help, so yeah, that's just one of the guys. Same with Odin. Like you blink in, you caged like three people, and you're like, "Come on, guys! Yeah, I got three of them caged," but then they don't follow up, and you're like, "Oh my god, this would have been a great fight if you helped." Kumba, same thing. You got great peel. If you have a really good player, if you're duo queuing with somebody, you can peel for them, hit people up in the air, set up 100-0 mid guys. He's really strong, but he's all about setting up. He's not really about carrying the team. But you can carry in the sense of you making it easier for somebody to carry you. So it's pretty much carrying, but you need somebody else to help you carry, if that makes sense. I just probably said something that was really confusing. Oh well. And then Sylvanas, dominant early game, pretty strong mid game, and then his late game is just really not that great. Like it's really annoying playing Sylvanas in rank sometimes. You can't even get your wisps off on people to heal them. Like they'll be running away from you. Like you're like, please, I just want to heal myself, and then you'll end up just popping it because they're just like keep running out of your range if you're not in curse with them, and then you'll and then they'll run back and you'll be like, oh my god, I just used it. Like that's happened to me so many times. It's just really frustrating. All right, going into A minus gods, same thing. Like they're pretty much A tier, but this is they just take more practice. Bastet, really good poke in lane. Really annoying later on. You could poke mages out. You can steal objectives really well. You could do objectives early with her cats. Wheelix, very strong at invading. Good in lane. Has good level 1 buff. Just a lot of positives to Wheelix. Thanatos, same thing, you can invade. Invading's just insane in ranked. If you can invade and it goes right, you have a really good chance of winning because people tend to tilt in ranked. Because, yeah, everybody's played ranked that's probably watching this. Or if they haven't started playing ranked, I'll tell you from experience. People are going to tilt if the early game goes bad. And they have a right to because if the early game goes bad, it's very hard to come back if your team's not coordinated. Brackney, same thing. Great invade, great level 1, really heavy lane pressure. But the thing with these gods is they kind of rely more on a hunter with good clear to really make their lane pressure shine. Bologna has a slow, can invade, disarm, great ultimate. She's pretty good overall. Alright, so we're getting to the end of the spectrum here. And these are just a couple other gods that you probably won't see too often in ranked. Like the B plus gods just do a couple things and they're really good at certain aspects. Like Chalk, really good at objective securing, really good at wave clearing. Like that's pretty much all he does. Other than that, he's pretty subpar. Like you could pick anybody above him in this list. He's not that great. Vamana has pretty good damage, really heavy mana issues, just which puts him like really really far back. Even with Bluestone, his mana issues are really really troublesome in support role, and they're nerfing Bluestone as well, so it's even gonna be harder for him. Baka's really good at invading. He can steal buffs because he has consume. He can make it really hard in the early game, but it's kind of hard to transition the pressure unless you have a team who's got your back, pretty much. And then Nemesis is just pretty much an alt bot. Her alt's really strong from the support role, but that's pretty much all you could do. I guess you could buy a heavy hammer and you could just be like an alt slash slower, but she doesn't really have hard CC, and you want some type of hard CC coming out of the support role because it is very nice to have. And then we have the B tier. I just put the B tier pretty much up for fun. Hades is like one of my favorite all-time favorite gods, like to play. I really wish he was better at supporting. He just really isn't. He's just better to play in like solo or mid. Same goes with Osiris. He's just a better jungler, solo laner. But yeah, all right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I do want to do this for like every role, and I want to have a guest, probably some pro player from some team, to help me go over what's good in ranked and what's not. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Aurora the Chunk. You could also check me out on twitch.tv/Aurora the Chunk. And yeah, I do really appreciate you guys watching. All that info about me will be in the description below. Go ahead and comment and tell me which kind of tier list for ranked you want to see next. Until next time, guys, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this tier list.